Today there's actually an option of gospel readings, and I chose this reading. I wanted to focus on this passage in the scripture where St. Joseph agrees to become not just the spouse of the Blessed Virgin Mary, but the foster father of Jesus. So today it's the great feast of St. Joseph, a solemnity in honor of St. Joseph. And when it comes to Joseph's hesitancy to take Mary as his wife, you know, when we look at the history of the church and various commentaries, scripture commentaries from various saints and church fathers, there have been various opinions regarding why Joseph did not want to take Mary as his spouse. However, the common consensus seems to be that the reason Joseph did not want to take Mary as his wife is not because he thought she may have been unfaithful or something like that, but rather it's because he understood that Mary was the chosen vessel of God, that she was extremely holy, that she would become the mother of the Messiah. And he did not feel worthy of being the spouse of such a woman. He did not feel worthy of being the foster father of such a child that would be born to Mary. And so out of humility, he kind of wants to quietly remove himself without causing a public disgrace or a public scandal. But as we see, the angel appears to him and says to him, "Don't be afraid," and reaffirms, yes, indeed, she is the mother of the Messiah, but you are to be the foster father. And he submits. And his submission to the will of God in this case is very similar to the submission of Our Lady when the angel Gabriel appeared to her, and her response is, "Let it be done unto me according to thy word." So basically, St. Joseph is doing the very same thing. He's saying, "Let it be done unto me according to thy word." He's agreeing to become the foster father of the Messiah, the spouse of the Blessed Virgin Mary. When we think of saints, Our Lady is the greatest of all the saints, and next to Our Lady is St. Joseph. And the reason that these two individuals are the greatest saints is because they were the closest to Jesus, and they had a very great natural love for Jesus. They had the greatest love for Jesus, we could say. And so for this reason, and also because of their obedience, their submission to the will of God, but for these reasons, so Our Lady is the greatest saint. Next to Our Lady is St. Joseph, and after that, it's all speculation. We have no idea which saint is greater than another. And understanding that St. Joseph, next to Our Lady, is the greatest saint, it's important that we ask him to intercede on our behalf. And he's a great intercessor. And especially in recent times, that the role of St. Joseph has become more prominent. And this was especially in regards, emphasized here in Canada, in regards to St. André Bessette, who died in 1937, which is not that long ago. And as you may well be aware, through the intercession of St. Joseph, with the help of St. André Bessette, thousands of miracles took place every year of St. André Bessette's life, just recently, like less than 100 years ago. And we have the largest shrine to St. Joseph here in Canada as a result of that great multitude of miracles. People were so generous in making donations to be able to build, a suitable basilica in honor of St. Joseph. It's kind of unfortunate when you think about it that especially in Quebec, people have fallen away from the faith so very quickly after so many miracles performed, in their very province in Quebec, right? So we have the greatest saint here. He's a great intercessor, and he is the principal patron of Canada. So he intercedes on our behalf. We should invoke him. We need his help. We need his assistance because Canada is falling away from the faith. And so we need to invoke St. Joseph, especially for leaders, political leaders, that they will do what is truly best for the people under their care. St. Joseph is also the principal patron of the Universal Church. And that makes perfect sense when we consider that his role as the foster father of Jesus was to provide for the Holy Family and to protect the Holy Family. Now, you and I, we become members of the Holy Family through our baptism. We become brothers and sisters of Christ, which means we have Mary as our spiritual mother. We have St. Joseph as our spiritual father. He wants to provide for us, to provide spiritual goods for us. And he wants to protect us. So if we are close to St. Joseph, we have greater protection from evil, from all kinds of terrible things. The closer we are to St. Joseph, the more he will provide us with the graces of God. So all the more reason why we should invoke him. And as we all know, he is also the patron saint of a happy death. And it's important that we understand why this is the case. So he's the patron saint of a happy death because the tradition is that he died before Christ began his public ministry. So he would have died in the presence of Jesus and Mary. And so they would have helped him to have a very holy death. And so because St. Joseph had such a holy death, he is the patron saint of a holy death. He's the one who assists us at the time of our death, provided we have a devotion to him and ask him to assist at our death. And there's many, many cases of the intercession of St. Joseph, often miraculous cases of intercession, as well as I'm sure most of you are familiar with the miraculous staircase in San Jose, New Mexico. And it's believed that it was St. Joseph who miraculously built this staircase. There's no nails used, and the wood seems to be very unusual. But there's also there's one particular story that sticks in my mind, and I believe it took place in Germany. Anyways, a priest is assigned to a particular parish in a town, and so he's traveling. He finally gets there. It's very late at night. It's completely dark. So he arrives at the rectory. He just goes inside, and as soon as he goes inside, he hears a knock on the door. And there's a man out there saying, "Father, please come quickly. You bring the sacraments you need to anoint, bring the holy oil and the Eucharist. You need to come because somebody is dying." And the priest says, "You know what, can it wait till tomorrow? I just arrived. I don't even know where the key for the sanctuary is or the key for the tavern. I don't know anything." And the fellow says, "Don't worry, Father. I know where everything is. I'll show you where it is. Just follow me." So the man, takes the priest, and they're able to get the Blessed Sacrament and the holy oils, and the man starts leading the priest, and they walk out of the town. And the priest is kind of, wondering, where are we going? Eventually, they come to a forested area. They start walking through the forest, and the priest is kind of getting worried, like, where are we going? And all of a sudden, there's this clearing there, and there's a shack in the clearing. So the priest realizes, okay, this is where the dying man must be. So he wants to thank the individual who was leading him, and he's looking around, and the individual is nowhere to be found. So he goes to the shack, and sure enough, there's a dying man inside the shack, and the dying man says to the priest, "Oh, Father, thank you so much for coming. I knew you would come." And the priest is thinking, how would you know? Like, I just arrived in this parish. And so the priest asks him, well, how did you know that I would come? And he says, because all my life I prayed to St. Joseph for a happy death. And here you are to give me the last rites, to give me the Eucharist, and to anoint me in preparation for my death. So St. Joseph is the patron saint of a happy death. And St. Teresa of Avila, as you know, an extremely great saint. She had a great devotion to St. Joseph. And she said that whenever she asked St. Joseph for anything, he would grant it to her. And her very first convent she named after St. Joseph because of his great intercessory power. So St. Joseph is a great intercessor. We have this affirmed by someone like St. Teresa of Avila, St. Andre Bessette in our own Canada. Let us invoke St. Joseph for our own personal needs, but also for the spiritual welfare of our nation and for the entire world. Just a couple of announcements. This Friday, we will have a funeral at 11 a.m. for Mervyn Skeet. Visitation will be at the Ogden Funeral Home from 4 to 8 p.m. on Thursday evening. May his soul and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. So because we have the funeral on Friday at 11, we will not have adoration after the morning Mass.